Huh. Star Stable is giving the ambassadors exclusive gear. Well, that's pretty cool. Wait, what the hell are ambassadors anyway? All I know about them is that they have a title, and that they like to drown us in a lot of emojis when Star Stable brings out a new horse. I guess I'm gonna have to go out of my cave for this one. You know, actually speak to the community and try and figure... That is not gonna work. I don't even know where to start in that mess. What is going on out there? I'm gonna need some backup. What's the number again?
911, what is your SSO social emergency?
Hi, yeah, I'm gonna need some help with the ambassadors. I don't even know what the hell's going on. The toxicity is so high that I think my rat just died.
Great, where do you want to start?
I have a Wait, how did you even get into my house?
That's what I like to call the power of YouTube collaboration.
Okay, great. Alright, fine. So you do the social stuff?
That's what I'm here for. You'd be surprised how much social shit I've seen in this toxic world we call the SSO community. Wait, why the f can't I cuss?
Well, in this video, you can cuss, but you'll only hear squeaks. Welcome to Sensors!
Who the f was that?
How the f should I know? Well, I guess you want to introduce yourself?
Glad you asked. Jerry, lights please.
Who the f is Jerry?
For those of you who don't know me, or if you do and you had amnesia from a car accident like a drama film, I'm Daniella Moonstar, and I have a YouTube channel. And if you'd like to see my take on the whole SSO debacle, head on over to my 4-episode docuseries and other videos on the channel. Also, I do have an Instagram and a Facebook, so check that out as well for when I post.
Well, that was anticlimactic. So, can we start the video now?
Yep, all good to go. Let's go!
This is the ambassador video. When I finished up my SSO customer support videos, I was contacted by a couple of people about a worrying situation developing within SSO, namely about ambassadors. Ambassadors often represent the best of the community a game has. They are the glitz and glamour, the hand-chosen, the people closest to the creators of your favorite game. It is hard not to have some appreciation for these people and their hours of dedication and unbridled passion. But there is a dark side to these positions, especially when the title seems to go to their head.
In this video, we will be exploring the darker side of ambassadors, more specifically how they bully and harass people, how these practices negatively affect the community, and what you can do to protect yourself from that. Although they're supposed to be role models, we can't really deny that these ambassadors have become a huge problem in the community. And also, just to cover our asses, this is not a smear campaign on any of these people. We're sharing stories that people have shared with us, and we will handle this with as much care as possible, but we can't deny what was said or shown.
Moon helped with the background and history and to provide some context. I'm a bit of a hermit myself, and I really struggled with some of the social aspects. Without her, this video would not be possible. So I say to her, thank you very much, and please go check out our channel when you get a chance. However, if any of these stories have more background or I got something wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know. And finally, not all ambassadors are part of this. However, it is an infection that has taken hold of this community and needs to be addressed, specifically by SSO, who it seems has gone off to Narnia when it concerns ambassadors.
The Star Stable Ambassador Program was started on February 13th, 2017 when it was first announced in that same year, and I quote, "To highlight the players spreading positivity, we've created our very own Star Stable Ambassador Program. We'll be teaming up with our ambassadors for things like promotions and giveaways, and to highlight the awesome content they're creating online."
People were selected to become ambassadors solely based on their conduct, specifically in the game or on social media. If you were seen being helpful and friendly, positive and with a great content, you were flagged for impossible ambassador status. You would be contacted, and if you fit a few other criteria, you would then become an ambassador. Then this type of email would be sent to you. There can be so much negativity in gaming communities that we'd like to start to highlight the positives. Your main goal would be to produce awesome star-stable content. We'd like to directly team up with our ambassadors for giveaways and promotions.
One of the key parts of becoming an ambassador is your social media page, which would make sense. Ambassadors need to be seen to become representatives, and the more active you are, the better. Photography and art channels are the most popular, with few ambassadors also making videos. Overall, the ambassador's job is to do volunteer work, promote the game, and encourage people to take part in events and buy promotional material. This means that an ambassador needs to be pretty active, and this can cause undue stress, especially in younger kids.
But ambassadors aren't as active today. I've seen many ambassador pages remain rather empty with little to no posts.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, Rattle. We'll get into that later.
Well, that's bloody ominous. But for now, it was and is a way to promote the game, to highlight good creators, and to allow the SSO teams to be more involved with the community. The ambassadors and the employees would work closely together, with the ambassadors acting as a sort of voice of the community. These early ambassadors understood very well that this position was one of prestige, and they were all very honored and grateful to have been selected.
We all knew the opportunity we have been given to work more closely with the developers of the game we loved and played, so I would say we became somewhat of work colleagues. Since we were the first ambassadors as well, no one really knew what it meant, so I guess we tread more carefully to see what it would develop into. Despite being a little uncertain in those early days, one thing was for sure, they were all very excited about it.
Only a few people were taken into the program in this early stage, but there were a few boxes to tick before you could become an ambassador. You have to be at least 13 years old, you have to be socially active, you have to be helpful and positive, you needed some sort of social media presence.
The biggest red flag here is the at least 13 years old. Now it does state that if you are under 18 you need a parent or guardian's permission. That's fine, but 13 is still very young. Although it certainly offered their younger audience a great opportunity to be seen as a direct part of the Star-Stable family, it can also be seen as dangerous to allow such a young person such a high status and responsibility. Most ambassadors are from Instagram, with very, and I mean very, few exceptions coming from YouTube and other social media platforms.
People from the SSO community, for example, would make great ambassadors. They rake in hundreds of thousands of views, but for some reason, very few of them have been contacted or given ambassador statuses, once again showing a bias. This could be because SSO seems to be focusing its ambassadors on countries where they have the most players, USA or Europe. But that means that a lot of communities are being looked over. Some rather believe it's because the ambassadors are mostly a clique.
Or some say it's a cult. Sorry.
All about the greater good.
In the early days of 2017 and beyond, problems quickly began to show with the ambassador program. I'll let an ex-ambassador explain why she left the program.
First and foremost, they never really utilized us as ambassadors. We maybe got to do 1 or 2 picture hunts on Instagram for the players to find, but other than that, we were merely a middle hand between the player base and the developers, bringing forth popular opinions, serious exploits, or common bugs. The SSO team even asked us how we could improve the ambassador program, hinting that they had no idea what to do with us. They definitely could have handled that better. The reason that weighed the most in my decision to leave was how the SSO team, specifically Stacy, whom was in charge of the ambassador program, was treating people.
Stacy Place is the current game director of SSO. Back then, she was made head of the ambassador program, but overall, these people were not being utilized and were just there. Stacy's treatment of ambassadors was often the reason cited for leaving. She would ignore some of the ambassadors and only make quick friends with those who were more sociable, befriending some and shunning others. And although she was barely active on the Discord, she would be quick to shit on someone for using a rather light cuss word.
What, like?
No.
Oh, maybe.
No, Rattle, it was...
How about?
God damn it, Rattle. It was... Damn! Damn! Damn it! God damn it, Rattle!
This behavior plainly left the ambassadors a little bewildered and on some serious uneven footing. How could they trust Stacy if she blatantly ignored them and attacked them when they said a light cuss word? As you can imagine, the work environment was not exactly ideal. Another instance was shared when SSO had the Inferno Online Stockholm event in 2018. It was a big event, the first Soul Rider book was being promoted. There were some live stream workshops and it was a big event for SSO enthusiasts to just get together and have fun. In particular, the ambassadors and the employees from SSO, Stacy and Ylva. Game Master Ylva was kind and friendly to the ambassadors, downright awesome to be exact. Stacy, on the other hand, was barely around and did not interact with the people she was the manager of. This anecdote simply shows how little Stacy cared and where the growing frustration was coming from. And then the ambassador craze of 2020 happened.
In 2020, around 20 ambassadors were hired out of nowhere. People who were chosen were not big members of the community, but people like Ivy Cherry Pie, who at the time had only been active for around 3 months on Instagram. These types of sudden hires tilted the point of the ambassador program on its axis. What was the point of the program if anyone could get a title?
So this is the reason why ambassadors are not as active anymore.
Yep, because the title has become worthless.
Another instance was shared, which is quite disconcerting. On the Firestar server, one individual was banned from the game for abusing a Starcoin glitch. She made a lot of noise about being banned, but in 2020 she was offered an ambassador title for her art. This seems to happen more than we realize. You are forgiven if you do something nice for Star Stable. Her persona, according to many players, tilts quite drastically from ambassador to real. The ambassador persona is one of sickly sweetness, and the real persona is quite mean-spirited. The ambassador craze is where things went to hell in a basket. These people were most likely hired as a quick marketing ploy, as no background checks were made. It meant that people who really had no reason to be given this title were made quick-fire ambassadors.
As a result, many of these people are now abusing these positions because they never earned it. But of course, this doesn't mean that getting the position is all sunshine and rainbows.
The payment for being an ambassador was and is non-existent. The most you get are some star coins. As one ambassador said, in around 2 years being an ambassador, they only got around 800 to 900 star coins in total. Not really a lot considering the amount of work they did. And they do a lot of work. From promotions to in-game activities to SSO conventions to running discords and being that constant, active, friendly and positive influence on the community, it was, at least at one point, almost full-time work with little compensation.
With all of this considered, it's no surprise that a lot of people left early. The ambassadors were not being utilized, many were being ignored, and they felt the program was really a waste of time. But if you think being an ambassador is all sunshine and rainbows, think again. The problems extend deep into the program because Star Stable is a hard taskmaster, and they have a very specific idea of how an ambassador should look, not really who they should be.
When promoting things in the game, your ambassadors and favorite YouTubers are often under contract. As one ambassador explained, we were given contracts. I'm not allowed to share them due to the NDA or non-disclosure agreements, but the contract told me what to say and what words to use. Now, to be clear, this isn't as strange as you might think. Many companies employ freelancers to promote games or products.
Depending on the type of promotion will depend on what you get as compensation. Century Age of Ashes has no set requirements, so making a post about the game in almost any context will get you a free in-game package.
I got a full-on package, which means that I was recognized.
Yeah, for on the game.
Shut up.
However, Raid Shadow Legends in turn has a strict set of rules you need to abide by, and they offer monetary compensation due to these strict guidelines. It's a paid advertisement, and that's the strange part.
Star Stable gives in-depth contracts and barely pays these people star coins for their work. They get little to no compensation for essentially being employees. This is unfair and should be more thoroughly addressed. Why not give ambassadors a 200 star coin allowance? Give them a better perk than just a pretty outfit. They do a lot of work and deserve to be recognized at the very least.
But all ambassadors sign contracts when dealing with promotions, and you have to hit those SEOs or search engine optimization words for your contract to be fulfilled, or you don't get your star coins. Or even worse, you're possibly kicked from the program. This also makes many of the ambassador posts very disingenuous. They are being told what to say, their excitement and happiness is fabricated because the contract told them to say it in that tone. It doesn't come from the heart.
But even when they are not under contract, they very rarely speak up about Star Stable. Because, like we said, they want to stay in the club, so they always agree with SSO and they always fall in line. You will notice they support Star Stable like mad, and if detractors speak up, ambassadors are quick to shut them down. This is a situation in which they have become piranhas, desperately hunting for any sort of naysayers to devour. As a result, they often shut down any sort of constructive criticism.
Sound familiar, anybody?
She keep messing up. You said it was 1, 2, 3, 4. You messed up again? You messed up again?
Now that we have established their situation and what they need to do, we can now look at some of their questionable actions. So, how much power do ambassadors have?
Almost nothing. The power is minimal. The most they can do is have some direct contact with the employees at SSO. Their sole responsibility is to promote the game and transfer any important information to the devs. Even then, they fail at that. They more often than not ignore constructive criticism and praise positive comments more, as we can see here. But despite this minimal power, there is a sort of hunger from these ambassadors to keep their title, as it gives them a status above other players, and that's what they seem to cling on to at all costs. That status, and they do this through toxic positivity.
By definition, toxic positivity is dismissing negative emotions and responding to distress with false reassurances rather than empathy, and comes from feeling uncomfortable with negative emotions, and is often well-intentioned but can cause alienation and a feeling of disconnection. Once again, doesn't this just sound so familiar?
What has two thumbs, a funny voice, and still doesn't give a crap?
Equestrian the game.
I added the funny voice to keep it fresh.
As a direct result of their contracts and most likely their desire to hold on to their position, ambassadors have bred a toxic positive environment within the community of SSO. This spreads its tentacles throughout the social media pages and creates a twofold problem. 1. Players who defend the game will use ambassadors as the example which to follow. If ambassadors dismiss any criticism, so too will players. 2. People who have valid criticism are constantly shut down and ignored, creating frustration and bitterness in the other half of the community, and so they begin to lash out.
We saw this quite clearly with Equestrian the game, where an entire Discord was shut down because the developers, in short, could not handle criticism. The players had become fed up with the devs' attitude, and because the players did not want to stop talking about their upset, the devs decided to shut down the Discord. A long while back, Star Stable also deleted constructive criticism. It took them a damn long while to figure out that shutting down players was not creating a healthy environment. Clearly, the ambassadors did not get the memo. As we said before, they would rather praise happy comments than actually acknowledge problems. This does unfortunately determine the community speech. I mean, why aren't you going to indulge in ambassador speak if it means that an ambassador, a recognized one if you will acknowledge you?
Like Barbie!
What?
Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses.
Are you seriously gonna talk about Barbie right now?
Shut up, it's gonna be fucking good.
Oh, save me.
The situation with ambassadors is almost similar to a scenario in the movie Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. In the movie, the 12 sisters were able to express themselves freely through fashion and hobbies. However, they were seen as improper princesses because they were being unruly in the eyes of other people. So their father contacted their cousin Rowena to help them. She made them wear the same clothes and act the same, and essentially stripped them both of their uniqueness and what made them a family. That is what is going on with the ambassadors. All ambassadors are expected to act and be a certain way. When you become an ambassador, you're expected to act and talk like one, and so lose individuality over time.
Never thought I'd say that a Barbie movie has a good point, but yeah, it's got a good point.
Told you bitch. However, they sometimes do good work and at the same time they don't. An instance where an ambassador actually did speak up for the community and not for SSO was during the Star Stable Dressage #SaveTheSandline scandal. Now, very briefly, the SSD community used the riding hall to do intricate and stunning shows. In particular, they used lines as reference to where they need to go. When SSO updated the riding hall on August 11th, 2021, they also removed the lines, and so almost killed the community in one foul swoop.
But one ambassador had continuously shut down the SSD players. It saddens me to see such awful behavior just because your dots and lines are not there. Sorry, but it just really saddens me.
This upsets a lot of people, and they kept pushing for SSO to fix the lines as it was screwing over a big community. That same ambassador then made a second story post. I would like to address I do not hate on the quadrille community. I love what they do and admired them for it. I tried, and it's hard. What I wanted to spread awareness of the difference between dressage and quadrille.
This created a bit of a shitstorm, and the SSD community was rightfully angry about it. They labeled themselves as dressage for the amount of work and time that went into these shows. They felt like everything they'd worked for was being invalidated. The ambassador would make a few posts, and then finally make one more that really upset players. I get their anger, but also the arena looks absolutely wonderful. It gives them a set arena that could be hugely beneficial for scenery purposes during their competitions. Oof, okay. But it gets a little worse because of course it does. She made an even more snippy post about the situation shortly thereafter.
Maybe try dressage without helping lines, like it's meant to be. It's really not the company's responsibility to adapt after their method. Maybe this is the time for change. Instead of being so butthurt by the update, maybe try making the routines with actual dressage guidelines, like the letters.
April Purplelight, an advocate for the dressage community, would stand up and explain the situation in detail, lamenting the fact that SSO didn't seem to care, that they, the community, had given them ample opportunity to fix the mistake, but they decided not to. In this post, we can see a desperate community trying to bring attention to a very big problem, but the response to the issues, as we can see, was mostly contempt from the ambassadors, who did not care about the community, but who were in fact supposed to be their voice.
In this situation, we can see an ambassador that is struggling to understand that her position is not to defend SSO but to be a bridge between players and the game. Because she forgot her function, she ended up making this bad situation a lot worse. Ambassadors like Total Cretin understood her role and shared the players' upset with SSO.
Puff, or Pietra Darkbrook, was another ambassador to stand up and say something in the community's favor, but it does show how fanatically they will defend SSO in general, even when it hurts the community. Another situation where they stood up for the community would be the SSO Save the Movies movement we ran a few months back. They went ahead and shared the situation with SSO. Ivy Cherry Pie, I believe, was one of them. And SSO ended up adding a feature for these creators. So I very much thank you, and the SSO movie community thanks you as well. This shows that ambassadors can be a great voice for the community if they care to use it.
But the unfortunate reality is that due to their innate need to always defend, and never consider any sort of constructive criticism, it has caused people to distrust the ambassadors on site. It is almost impossible to have reasonable conversations with these people as they are desperate to defend the game. My opinions are now invalidated since becoming an ambassador. Although this is a frustrating situation to find yourself in, it is the road you walk when the clique you are a part of cannot be critical of the game they represent.
But the terrifying part is that although they don't have the power within Star Stable, they do have sway on the community. And this is where it gets ugly. A trend we find is how ambassadors will either shoot down ideas or sick their followers on people whom they don't agree with. One player, for example, made a stamp idea for YouTubers. As stated before, most ambassadors are from Instagram, so giving creators from YouTube an official badge would extend SSO reach without needing to give ambassador statuses. But it was quickly shot down because it was too difficult to implement.
The creator of the idea was quickly bombarded by people who claimed that she was quote-unquote trying to take away from the ambassadors, which was not her intent. She wanted to give credit to people who also worked on Star Stable content. She made the idea, but it was once again shot down. It didn't really matter what she did. The ambassadors didn't like it, and the idea would not be implemented, even though it was a good idea to acknowledge more people's creativity and hard work in the community. All of these issues and problems arise when the ambassador's love turns away from the community and instead to themselves. That love becomes selfish and twisted, and instead of being proper role models, they turn to a bad influence and even a joke.
That is the end of the first video. Second one will be up in a few days. Please keep an eye on Moon's channel for that one. We're going to be diving into some dark stuff. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you're enjoying the series.